Mithrilhawks are a secret organization of adventurers and agents whose principal aim is to prevent an alien invasion by the race of beings known as the Chuthules, a humanoid cephalopod race of psyonic squid-like conquerors who enslave worlds. The Mithrilhawks were formed by Xavier Waverider to prevent this ongoing threat and help keep the civilizations of Earthal in balance through the 5 ages. Our intrepid adventurers are Sundu Thunderglade, a third-aged Fey-elf druid sent forward in time to the 4th age of Earthal to determine the best place for his tribe to store the Tui Stone, a relic of unimaginable power, used to destroy one of the moons in the apocalyptic battle between dragons and giants at the end of the 2nd Age. He is horned, green-skinned with bioluminescent markings, and can transform into a giant teleporting tiger-like being of immense strength and agility, played by Kurt. Lachlan Windshear, a half-elf rogue artificer wizard mercenary from the 4th Age of Earthal, who was orphaned and taken in and trained by the Mithrilhawks. He relishes in unique magic items, creating them and running a small mercenary band that supports the Mithrilhawks intelligence network. He serves as the guide to this unlikely and very secretive trio, played by Redfoot. And John Loyal Chambers, a Special Forces operative from the very human 5th Age of Earthal, who operates in a special access program called the Jumpgate Project, run by General Hawk. He was sent back in time to the 4th Age to determine the whereabouts of the Tui Stone and report back so the Jumpgate Project could locate it and use it to defeat the invading cephalopods of the Chuthule race. He has a religious experience during this time travel jump and becomes a paladin for Columbia Mithrael, the female elven deity of justice and healing, played by Tennant. Each of our adventurers are guided by their age's version of Xavier Waverider, and each have their own mission. Will they work together to accomplish their specific missions, or will they face something even more daunting and challenging, discovering untold secrets that they had never suspected and challenging them to their very cores? Find out in the Mithrilhawks' search for the Tui Stone. In this episode, the adventurers have just arrived from their respective centuries at the main gate at the beginning of Earthal's 4th Age, before human refugees have arrived. The Mithrilhawks School is located here, and our adventurers get to know each other, learn about this age, and train together until the death in the Mithrilhawks Battle Room, a holodeck danger room of technology, magic, and learning.
And so our intrepid heroes and adventurers, have been transported through time and through the world on a mission to find the Tui Stone, each one of them with a different purpose and origin. We have Fox, who is from the 4th Age, which is very much like a fantasy J.R.R. Tolkien age, your typical fantasy setting. And he's played by Redfoot. And we have Sundu. We have Sundu Thunderglade, played by Kurt. And Sundu is a 3rd Age Fey elf. So that means he's born in a time when there's great magic and the gates to the planes are very much open, and the race of superior elves, which were the precursors to the fantasy elves, exist. And so he's a druid, and he's come forward in time to find the fate of the Tui Stone, which his tribe was determined to place in the hands of the right rulers so that it would go throughout the course of ages. And then we have Loyal, who is otherwise known as John Chambers, played by Tennant, and he is a special ops soldier from our age, the modern world, going back in time through a project, a deep black ops project called Jump Room, or Project Mithriel, and he's going back in time to determine where the Tui Stone has landed, so to speak, so that in the future, facing the alien threat of mind flayers, they have a weapon to defend themselves. And in the lead up, each character's beginning adventure was their episode 0, where they got to meet the people in charge and sending them on these missions. They're part of a group called the Mithrilhawks, which are a group of secret, extraordinary Avenger-like characters and heroes whose purpose it is to keep balance in the world of Earthal. And so they've just all each jumped and journeyed through the gates to meet one another at the very beginning of the 4th age. And each age is 12,000 years, roughly. And the beginning of the 4th age is when humans appeared on the planet as refugees from other Mind Flayer enslaved worlds. So we get a number of different cultures on this planet, a number of different strains of history and genetics. And they have all just traveled to the very beginning of that age before the humans have arrived to the Mithrilhawk base, where they will get further training and deploy throughout the world to find the fate of the Tui Stone. Got it? All right. Yeah, so all of you landed, facing each other in the middle of this huge Colosseum-sized Trilithon Stonehenge-like megalithic structure, which you guys got to experience as the gates between time, places, and planes. And you moved very fast, but you were not moving. And then once you stopped immediately, you had to catch your balance, and you're under a starlit sky, and there is one moon under the sky. And Kurt, I think I said that your guy was like missing a part of his soul, because he could definitely feel that magic was missing compared to his world, his time period.
Alright, well I stand up, kind of making it look like everything just happened I meant to have happen. I say, Sundu, and John Chambers, I presume. Welcome to the 4th age.
Thank you. And actually, let me grab my book, because I wrote down in Fox, Kurt, you're the Sundu, that's the one that's the demon one to me, correct?
Correct, yeah. Yeah.
React to that, and I of course stand up as well, dust myself off. But I am John Chambers, but you can call me loyal in this age. I think John would stand out quite a bit.
And you see what he looks like. He's kind of looks like the guy in Avatar, the movie with the blue people, the bad guy general, but like a little bit younger, a little bit nicer. And he's wearing military fatigues, though you don't know what they are. They just look like really cool threads. In fact, Kurt, your guy would actually be like, that's actually kind of cool looking. And for the first time, Tenant, your Loyal's looking at what looks to be like a 6'5" tall demon with horns and green skin and glowing patches. And Fox, you're like, okay, he's kind of weird looking, but I've seen weirder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sundu's like in shock. You guys are like, oh hey, what's up? And he's just like, he's like grounding.
Yeah, so he's sort of meditating. Are you like ignoring them, like going into deep breathing and like I'll get with you in a second?
He's like in some kind of lotus position, doing some meditative breathing techniques to just be like, his mind is totally blown to have like one of the moons has disappeared.
Yeah.
Like as a radiant source of energy, and he's really like infused with the magic of his time. So it's like half of his soul just got ripped out of him while he got shot through the time sphere. He's struggling right now.
Yeah. And Loyal had a almost like a religious experience. Do you want to share that with them, or not at this time?
No, not at this time. It's something I will probably bring up later or explain after some interesting encounter or another.
Yeah, he's carrying a pike of some sort. Is it a halberd or is it like a spike? Okay.
The one that's got the axe on it and then the spike at the tip.
Great.
I can lunge with it or swing it.
Okay, awesome. Loyal, he was sort of told, like, you're gonna take this equipment with you, cache it, and then they're gonna give you stuff. Because you guys are right outside the Mithrilhawks school, like about a 10-minute walk. And the first of all, the Trilithon megalithic structure that you're in is about the size of the Roman Colosseum. And I told you that the Trilithon stones are so huge that a ship could fly in between them and underneath them. And once you walk out of that ring, you're in this huge open field like that goes on for the eye can see, except in the north there's a small patch of woods and some mountains, and right up into that is this huge glimmering, and it shines in the starlight and moonlight. It's a huge mithril structure that looks like it grew straight out of the earth.
Do I know like what the next location is?
Yes, you do. You are actually at the Mithrilhawks school where you were trained, and this is like, it's like coming back to Hogwarts for you. You know what I mean? Like you smell the air. You can smell the cleanliness of the air and how you know, open and expansive this time period is, and you know, a lot of great memories fled back to you about, you know, your time there when you grew up being trained in the Avengers, X-Men, Hogwarts of this world. So there are people that you would be looking forward to seeing. Lucius Eldertree is the headmaster, and he's an elf, a very long-lived, stoic elf, very pale moon elf, very slender and but, you know, immensely powerful. And whenever he speaks, it's like the air around him vibrates.
He's a wizard.
Yes. And then the two groundskeepers. One is Cassius, and he is the centaur. He teaches a lot of stuff with the ranger schools, you know, wilderness survival and stuff like that. And then Beorn, Beorn, and he is a werebear.
Are they human otherwise, or are they?
I
guess the centaur is a centaur, but so.
Yeah, he's a human werebear. Yeah.
And he's a groundskeeper.
Yeah, he teaches the druid craft, and there's a whole component of the school that's outdoors and everything. It's like very comprehensive in all of the different what you call it, the different classes. And so let me pull him up. Do you guys want to say anything to each other anymore? Let me describe you each. So Sundew Thunderglade is about 6'5" tall. He's got like red hair that's almost like a mane, like a tiger's mane. And his eyes are green with dark green in, you know, irises. And his skin is a light pale green, but with bioluminescent green markings, like a tiger might have. His outfit is very much like space age, like not alien, space age, elven, high fashion, I would say. And even though he is a druid, he's very much at home in the woods, and his natural outfit is very much, it's almost part of his being, right? And Loyal, John Chambers, like I described, is the fellow that looks like he would be from the movie Avatar on Pandora. He looks tough, but he's a little bit younger. I think he was like, what, 34? Is that right, Tennant?
Yeah, 32. Yeah.
32.
No, 36. I'm sorry.
36. But he's also seen, he's got a scar, you know, he looks rougher for wear. He's been through some shit. And he's very, you can tell he's very good man, and he's very noble and honorable. But he's done and seen some dark things. And Fox is a half elf. His outfit is sort of like Burning Man couture with like padded leather, studded leather, and leather armor. But that looks like an adventurer's suit, right? Like tight pants with cool stitching and maybe tabby boots. Would you say so, Redfoot? Tabby boots, maybe, or just regular boots?
Yeah, yeah, maybe that, or maybe just soft-toed boots.
Yeah, soft-toed boots, and, you know, leather jacket, and like, you know, straps that come across with like utility belt kind of sort of stuff. Very alert, and you can tell he's like he composes himself well.
I'm also young. I look like I'm about 19 years old.
All right, there you go.
Well, gentlemen, let me show you around the school.
And just as you turn to do that, you see Cassius coming through. I don't know if you can see the screen. Uh-oh.
Oh, snap. Okay, cool. And sorry to interrupt, guys, but if you have on Chrome, you were telling me, Kurt, about Beyond.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So I'm on D&D Beyond as well, and I just clicked on Perception in my like on the +2 on my character sheet in D&D Beyond, and it rolled it in Roll20.
No way.
John Chamber in the look at the chat bubble.
Yeah, that's great.
Website for D&D Beyond.
So that's where I roll my character, and that
No, yeah. What's the address?
Oh, it's DN as in Nancy Beyond.com.
I bought the player's handbook of Dungeon Master's Guide to the Monster on the D&D Beyond app.
Oh, nice. That's cool. But yeah, from here with having that, like I literally, and that's cool. It even has my name. Anyways, I was rolling a perception to see if anyone has got weapons on them and is feeling antsy about me as an individual.
Sundu is meditating, and you don't see any weapons on him actually at all. You see like a really cool metallic sort of glove to his like on his right hip, hanging down from his pardon me, hold on a second. Hanging down from his right hip on his thigh. Fox, you actually don't see any weaponry on him. He's very once he's composed himself and standing, he's very like nonchalant and very relaxed. Like he looks like he's at home and he feels very comfortable. Sundu is in a meditation position and all. You wouldn't say that he's oblivious to what's going on around him, but he's not giving you any indication that he's paying attention to whatever you're doing or saying. And with your perception, you are a little bit shocked. You're still kind of wondering what the fuck this guy is, and then as you're looking around and you notice you hear galloping in the distance, and you turn to look and you see a horse, somebody riding a horse to you. But as it gets closer, you can see that it's actually a human that is a horse. His torso from the belly button up is human, and the remainder of him from the belly button down is a quadrupedal horse. And so he comes up to you, and he's got tattoos on his face that resemble the Maori tattoos, and they go down his body actually in a number of different directions and intricate patterns. And he has on his back a quiver and a bow and arrow that's attached to his side, like where the saddle would be, just a little bit forward of that. But he doesn't have it in his hands or anything. He's got bracers on that are well made leather, and he's got a mohawk that's tied up like it's almost like a mohawk tied up into braids that kind of all go back into a long mane, and the tattoos go along his sides. And he looks at Fox, and he looks at you, and down to Sundu, and he looks at Fox, and he's like, "It's good to see you, Fox."
And this is Cassius.
Yeah.
So it's been way too long. What are you doing?
Good. And he comes up close to you and shakes your hand, in the way that they do. And he says, "We've been expecting you. Lucius is up in the castle, and everybody's waiting. You guys will take a rest tonight, and then you'll get going for the day tomorrow. Get with your training, and we'll get you going, hey?"
Sounds good to me, sir.
Then he turns to Loyal, and he says, "Good to meet you, sir. You are John Chambers, is that correct?"
Sir, yes, sir. But in this age, I will be going by Loyal, if you don't mind.
All right, fair enough. And this green turkey, who's this?
Sundu opens his eyes and lets out a deep exhale. I am Sundu Thunderblade. From the sent from the Thunderblade clan, chosen to inspect this facet of the time sphere.
And Cassius kind of cocks his head and looks at you, and he bends one horse knee down, and he puts his arms out, and he's like, "It's an honor to meet you, sir. If you'd be so kind as to follow me, I'll take you to your quarters."
So, Loyal, I gotta ask you, what are you loyal to?
Love, actually, is what I've most recently found myself deeply loyal to.
Been deeply loyal to that many times myself.
The deeper you go, the better, really.
Wonderful. So, if you guys look on the map, we have a close-up of where you landed. It's this gate right here. Can you see my cursor? You guys are right there. and the plains that are out here kind of surround the whole field, and then there's like a little mountain and forest right here. That's where the Mithrilhawks School is. So yeah, this is where you guys are located. And just to give you a kind of, you see these lines that are here, like it's like a straight lines in between all these gates. You know, these are all the pathways that you can take from gate to gate, and all of these rainbow circles are the gates. The colored stars are the cities, the major cities, and so the blue one represents the Western sort of classical British European kind of fantasy land. The indigo ones over here are the Chinese sort of Asian lands. The purple ones down here are sea elves and like New Zealanders essentially. The green one over here is like the South American Congo reptiles and stuff like that. And down here is like a ancient Native American kind of culture. So you guys are located here. Oh, and this one over here is actually a yellow star, and that's sort of like the desert areas, you know, the desert cultures, like the Middle Eastern kind of stuff. And there happens to be a gate underneath that city there, because that city is partially buried, much like Egypt. You know what I mean?
What about what was this orange one down?
Oh, that's African. Thank you. It's hidden behind everybody's pictures, but yeah, that's sort of like the African um, kind of cultures. You'll find Wemmicks there. You'll find a tribe of dwarfs that are very much like the Akkadians, you know, the ancient Akkadians in our world. And then you'll find like, you know, down here in the Australian lands, you'll find Aborigines that are actually like halflings, and they use boomerangs and stuff like that. So you think the kid from Mad Max? You remember the original Mad Max? That's kind of like that land. Hmm. So you guys have landed, and just so you know, the era, the epoch, the age is 12,000 years long, and where you are is like in the first 800 years, right? And it's before the humans have arrived, because what had happened was between Kurt's age. Well, maybe I'll leave this to part of the training. What they do is Cassius takes you inside, and you meet with Lucius Eldertree, who is the headmaster, and what he looks like is a pale moon elf with very silver white hair. He carries a staff, and the staff has like a gnarled tree root as its base, kind of like Gandalf's in Lord of the Rings. And inside of it is like a pure, clear white quartz crystal. And his robes are reminiscent, I would say, of what Kurt is wearing, but more fantasy aged, more like the robes and clothes that he's wearing are all hues of light blue, silver, and white, and are very elven in today's elven standards of this realm. And he greets you at the gates while you guys are, it's a starlit night, beautiful full moon. And as you're coming to the gates, which looks like a small little glen with these mithril statues that surround it, and the building itself looks like a vein of mithril that is, you know, 5 stories tall and about the size of a coliseum itself. And you can see the instead of the outside wall being pure smooth, it's curled and gnarled like mithril would grow under the ground. It was as if it was grown out of the ground and created this. Oh, sorry. It was created. It looks like it was grown out of the ground and created into the structure that it is. Very natural, very organic, metal shapes, but definitely a habitation. And where it's the entrances and where the places that you walk through, an interior, it looks like the whole thing was carved or sculpted out of mithril with beautiful statues. And there's this fountain at the very entrance outside. I'm sorry, inside. And when you walk in, you see a tall elf, the Lucius, who you know, Fox, and then also a short gnome. And the gnome has goggles, and the goggles are like up on his head. And you can see he has no hair up on top, but like frizzy hair out the back. Um, and he's wearing what would be like a tinkerer slash alchemist's frock, you know, like a big leather frock with all these little tools in it. and he's got like, you know, monocles on the side of his goggles that he can flip down and that sort of thing. And he's got gloves, you know, big thick gloves on that come to like here but pad out, you know. And he's standing there with his hands behind his back, and he greets you. He's looking at you guys very excitedly, and his eyes go to you, Loyal, and you know you see that he's looking you up and down and scanning all of your equipment and looking all of the things that you're carrying, right? And so Lucius says,
His name?
yes, it's Q. And it's actually, he's going to introduce himself, but you know him as Q. You know his name, some long-ass Q starting name, but you can't remember what it is, because you always called him Q. And he was the guy who made your, yes, that's right. That's right. So, as you walk in, Lucius, he looks at all three of you, and his eyes dwell mostly on you, Kurt, and you can see that he's intrigued, and he is like a little awestruck, but he would never show it. You know what I mean? And he says, greetings. And when he says it, it echoes through the whole hall, and it's like this sense of gravitas when he speaks. His words like vibrate within you, and he's like, greetings, brothers. Welcome back to the Mithrilhawks. We have quarters for you upstairs. You are not to mingle with the students. Your training will begin tomorrow. Q here will be able to provide you with accommodations and show you around, and also provide for your equipment needs. And he looks at you briefly, Loyal, and then he turns to Sundu and he says, will you be needing any equipment, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually, if there's a place I can stash the equipment I currently have, that would be much appreciated. I don't think it would go over well to be seen in this age.
Okay.
I have my trusty sidekick, Moana, that I carry with me always, and I pull out a subcompact assault rifle.
And Q like Q immediately walks forward. He's like, "I'll help you. Let me take those things. Don't worry. I've got it. I've got it under control. I've got just the right things for you."
And I do hesitate before I hand it over, and I'm like, "You understand that you can't take this technology and use it in this age."
I wouldn't dream of it. I simply. And then he's like. And he's all like, yes, and the backpack and all of those magazines, I think you call them.
Yes, yeah.
Already I can see the disruptions that will be incurred from this mission.
And Lucius turns to you and he says, dear Elder, I understand your perspective, but please understand we do not mingle with the rest of the communities of humans, elves, or denizens of this world at any point in time, lest they come here to train. And nothing leaves our quarters that should affect the timelines or your ancestors or the Song of Lothlorien. And he bows.
I bow back.
Being said, well, that thing he just gave over to Q doesn't blow things up or anything yet, or anything like that, right? Because you might never see it again.
Yeah, no, it doesn't create fire, but it'll put any bow and arrow to shame, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Crossbows too? I really like my crossbows.
I mean, fire your crossbow 20 times a second, and we'll talk about it.
And then Lucius turns to you, Kurt, to Sundu, and he says, will you be needing anything, sir?
Not at this time.
Okay, good. He's like, as I would have suspected. And he turns and he says, gentlemen, I leave you in the faithful hands of Q, and he will show you to your quarters, and tomorrow you will begin your training with, what was his name? His name... No, you will be beginning your training with, Palladium. Palladium. You know the metal? Yeah, I did that. All right, so his name is Palladium, and he is, you know him, Red. He was the guy who trained in planar travel, like using the gates for exploring the planes. But he's also the guy in charge of the dream room, as you know it to be, or the battle room, which is much like the holodeck on Star Trek and or the danger room in X-Men. It's like a holographic, semi-real, completely immersive 3D experience where you can train and learn, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to do a bit of a combat simulator. We're gonna go and do a combat round with some animals and denizens that I've picked. And the way that works is sort of like combat to the death, in the sense that you go until you die, right? So you'll face harder and harder creatures each round, as it were. And then it's also where we're gonna do kind of like the montage of the training that you get. Tenet, your guy knows how to use a halberd and a sword, kind of, you know what I mean? He's like semi-proficient, but through the course of this montage, he will then have the proficiency for sword and halberd and shield, right? And he'll also have a basic briefing on what the cultures are beyond what you got in the 5th age with General Hawk and the Jump Room project. Were you going to say something, Foot?
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, as far as continuing training, you and I got to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
I think Fox would be very interested in starting to study hand-to-hand combat, as his agility has always allowed him to get out of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But thinks that having someone like train him to focus that ability into actual martial arts training would make him like pretty close to unstoppable. So he's very interested in that.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and I would imagine that Tennant's character knows Krav Maga, and some other kind of hand-to-hand combat that's useful in the military. And Kurt's character as well would have like an ancient elven sort of martial arts. In fact, where Kurt comes from, his character Sundu, he's actually, if you're still looking at the map, his people came from right around here. Did you see where that red ping is? So like, yeah, and so if you look at Kurt's character, Sundu, he looks like what our current world Chinese and Japanese would deem a demon, right? Because at the end of the 3rd age and into the 4th age, some of them actually did survive and stay. They eventually became the elves of this age. And so his people were some of the origination of the idea of demon and, of that kind of thing in his age. And his weapon, though you haven't seen it yet, but through the course of this montage, you would see that he has a weapon, and it's basically like a katana that he puts on that metal glove, and a katana can appear in his hands. But
I think Fox is going to want to. I think he probably practiced some sort of very flourishing martial arts.
Yeah.
Because he's really got the agility to back it up and make it useful in combat instead of just performing.
Okay, cool.
He's very naturally like flipping around all the time.
Yeah, and the guy who trained you and brought you into the Mithrilhawks was Drendor, right? Drendor Grabnest, and he was an assassin and acrobat. So he was basically like, very much about that, and would have trained you in that kind of a combat and acrobatics. So yeah. So the way that the battle room works is that it works on a mixture of technology and magic. And basically, the whole building is electrified. It's not like we have today with AC/DC. It's just like there is a lot of vril and life force in the building, and they have ways of harnessing that and channeling it through magic means to use the electricity, the natural electricity of the space to amplify and create things and have things happen. So what Palladium, he comes in, and what he looks like, he's got embroidered blue and dark blue and indigo robes, but that are very fine leather, dyed blue, and with all this blue stitching in it in different colors to make it look like space, essentially. And his robes go from like a light, or like a deep dark blue, purple, black, up into like a very light blue, with sort of like lightning going through it. And his hair is kind of like spiky brown, and he has brown or gray side strips on his hair, and he wears a monocle. And oh, by the way, Q took all your shit, Kurt. I'm sorry, not Kurt, Tenet, including your clothes, and gave you basically like leather pants, white tunic, like some warmy clothes, and provided you with armor as well, plate mail armor. But it's kind of like not that bulky, heavy, nasty plate mail that you see in classic medieval fantasy literature. You know what I mean? It's like it's leather with a lot of plates on it in such a way that you're able to move. It like looks decent. It's not, you're not just like clunking around basically.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and a little like leather helm if you want for now. But you can, if you do want, you can actually have like a full helm or face helm. Like, have you given any thought to what kind of armor your guys going to wear in this time period?
Yeah, no, I definitely want to make my way towards full plate, and I want to have a badass helmet with a visor that I can up and down.
Okay, all right, hell yeah. So yeah, it's fine mithril plate, only the best for the operatives, and so if you want a helm, just imagine what it would look like, and that'll be fine. He gives you a room that you can choose a whole bunch of different outfits and armors, so you can basically just have that kind of metal plate mail that you're looking for. And the way it works is that you walk into this room that's sort of like big and egg-shaped. The floor, buckles up, and the ceilings, it's like a big round room, essentially. And there's like a panel right inside of it to the right of the door, and you can see there's a glass that is seamless with the rest of the room. And the room itself is glowing. It's as if the sound wave in the place is such that it produces light. Like, there is no fixed light source, but rather everything itself is lit. So there are no shadows whatsoever, which is kind of odd because you're always used to seeing like shadows even from any light source. But because the light itself is coming from the walls in the air, it's basically like standing in a white room that has no boundaries, right? The only thing that it seems like it goes on forever, but you know that it doesn't because you're going around and touching the walls and seeing how it's shaped. But there's sort of like floating in midair that would match the roundness of the room, like a glass panel, and you see into a room over there, like a sitting room where somebody can sit and watch, right? And Palladium comes in and he says, "Today's class will be on races," and he says, "This is for our two friends from outside this age. Fox, this might be interesting to you towards the end." And so basically it just goes through all the different races, what their strengths are, what their habits are, social habits. Like, you see drow, you see, you basically get like a 5-minute introduction to each one of the different races. And if you have any questions, like, they'll pause and you can go through and ask questions and whatever. So it's basically like somewhat of a military briefing, but like for you, Tenant, it feels like that. But for you guys, Redfoot, you've gone through this. Kurt, your guy is mildly interested because, it's like he needs to know of the different races, and so he's mildly interested. Like, he knows the races that these races come from. Like he sees the orcs and they're degenerate from the big monstrosities from your age. You see like the dragons, and even the dragons,
subspecies, right?
Yeah, your guy's like, what has happened to the world? A little bit of his soul is crushed. It's like, I thought things would get better, not diminish, So he's having a little bit of challenge with that, And then the next bit is like, you zoom across the planet, and what you do is like when you were in the gate and you were zooming 17,000 miles an hour but standing still, that happens, and you go and you're like in the middle of, Chinatown or whatever capital city of the Quanzhou Empire, and you're seeing like the day-to-day life and kind of getting like a real life immersion in all of the different places that you may or may not be going. So you go to like the Arabian lands and you travel across the deserts and you see how far it is, and you see like these ancient structures, but then you go under the sand and you see that there is like ancient pyramids and temples underneath the sand, and some of it has been dug up and there are caverns underneath and like a whole city underneath the city. And then you zoom to another gate that's where these huge monsters like Godzilla type style monsters are. And this actually looks very familiar to you, Tenant, because I'm sorry, not Tenant, Kurt, Sundu, because these creatures were around in your age. They look a little bit different, but like you recognize like the big Leviathan, and you recognize the Asian ogres which you used to go to battle with. They were your enemies to the north, right? But you see them now and they're smaller. They still have horns, but they're like diminishing. And then you go over to the Western European lands and you see the megaliths and Stonehenge type things, and this beautiful city right on the coast with all these islands. And you actually know that that area used to be not covered in water, like where their islands are and all the rivers. It's all where there's lakes, not lakes, but sailing ships and stuff in the coast. That used to all be land at another time period, And so you kind of get. So this is where the monsters were.
Oh yeah, okay.
This is where the land used to come out to like here, So that's all sunken, and and even here too, like the water has come up. Like in your age, there was a lot more land, right? And so yeah, you get a quick tour of all the continents and their cultures. You know that there are dragons up in this area, a lot of dragons and dragon-born offspring. Kind of, there's tribes of like offshoots of dragons, and over here there were no humans that came to this gate. This was what's left over of the second age, the first age and second age. It's all reptiles. Like there are very few mammals over here, except a cat-like species and a few really rigorous humans who are really tough, And then down here, you see a lot of giants, red-haired giants, and tribal people that are very much into air, birds, and mysticism and flying. Okay. Oh, and up here, there is a floating castle. It's not a castle; it's actually a mountain, and it's floating in the air. And it's the last of the sky elves. And you actually you peek up to that, Kurt, because you remember the sky elves from your age, and you're like, there's still some of those here, So you're like, the world has diminished, but you get a little bit of hope because there are some aspects of your world, right? Tenant, for you, it's like, what the fuck? Like, it's as if, the fantasy books of your age have all come to life, and you're like, is this real? Like, have I been hallucinating for the past 12 years? And like, am I even alive anymore? What the fuck is going on?
All right.
Yeah, and Foot, your guy's like, yeah, I already took this class, like... Yeah, or like throwing, what are the little knives called again? I'm sorry, karambits, and I'm gonna remember that at some point. And so you like throw your karambits at people, like yeah, and like during you see one of the ogres from the Asian time, you run up and cut it, and you hear Palladium's voice. He's like, that's coming next, Fox. You don't have to. Oh God. And so after the culture and the fighting, or not the fighting, the culture and the beasts, now it's time you get a quick update on where you have seen, or and this goes over for like a couple days, and you guys have combat training. Not every day is this, but you guys get to lounge around and spend some free time. The grounds have, hunting. There's all kinds of stuff to do, but you're not really allowed to go past, like about a mile out, let's say, because this is at the very early age of this time period, and they don't want to, like they said in the very beginning, don't want to infect anything or change anything, So if you guys want to, it's not like you're getting trained every day all day. It's like you have a lot of leisure time. And the first few days have been this kind of training. You're kind of like in the second week. If there's anything special you want to do, like if you want to go see Q, or if you want to speak with Beorn or Cassius, or look around, let me know, and I can give you some clues or hints or something.
So, Hawk, when you have a chance to check your text, I sent you a text with just a description of the weapon. Make sure you're in agreement with all of that.
And then I because you're free on Roll20, so I gifted you so you can purchase for Roll20 the plus. So we can import characters and.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's awesome. I see that email. Redfoot, I see your text, but I don't see an email. Oh, got it. It's on a text. A single Eskrima stick that can magically extend to a staff. Okay, break down into 2 fighting sticks. Yep. Yep.
Any DM.
What's that?
I said I appreciate any DM. It's just not easy to come up with all this and put it all together. And
Dude, I've been having such a great time already, so I'm hoping that it's enjoyable for you guys. So Redfoot, that does it have nunchuck? Does it have nunchuck abilities as well?
I don't think it needs to. If you wanted to, I'm okay with it having to.
Well, it can. Yeah.
I think really a bow staff and the screamer sticks don't like the ground.
Cool. I'm with it. Yeah, that's awesome.
just definitely my character wants to get familiar with his weapons. So if there's any way we could do some combat, that'd be cool.
Yep. We're gonna do that. That'll take up the rest of our session. I would think it'd be the next 45 minutes. And we'll just go as far as we can with it. But I just want to make sure that I cover any things that are really pertinent before we begin that. And the Tui Stone itself. I think I've described it to each of you, but it's basically a torso size, like from your waist to the tip of your head, about a crystal, yay big, 6-sided. Inside, it's super intricately carved that you can actually, if you had the kind of perception needed for it, you could see events in space and time coded into the crystal, and it's immaculate. You know, it's got two ends, and it takes a lot to carry. So, and they say that it was discovered in. They say that they thought that it was in the buried sands of the desert. That's technically where they know it to be right now, but Sundu, you know it. That it was supposed to be handed to a emperor, one of the first original leaders of the Asian people who came through the Asian gate. Your people were there to usher them in and sort of help them establish themselves, and that you were choosing between one of the 5 kings. So it's somewhere in to the best of your knowledge, it's somewhere in the Asian kingdoms, because that's
like 5.
Yeah. Yep, that's you had the choice to give it to, and you were leaning towards this one because he was the farthest away and closest to the forests and closest to nature and in his leanings, right? From all of the other people and and the rest of the world. You know what I mean?
Oh, I see.
But Tenet, they think right now, Lucius and Palladium say that we believe we have intel that it's supposed to be in the Egyptian capital, or the Egyptian style capital, buried underneath everything, because that's where the battle between the giants and the dragons took place, and that's where the moon was brought down by the giant wielding the Tui Stone. So that's the best guess that General Hawk had, but they're saying that right now in this briefing at the Mithrilhawks Academy, Mithrilhawks School, that they suspect it to be here.
Perfect. Well, let's go, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, but for you, Kurt, it doesn't sit well with you. It doesn't make sense. Okay? And they're going, and the reason they say it's in the Egyptian capital is because that's where the battle took place. But no, and if you recall when I told you that the dragon who brought the stone brought it to your people over here, away from the battle, and then took off himself to go live in the flying mountain.
I see.
So if your people had it, that means that the choice that you made to give it to this king or this emperor somehow ended up in Egypt. So you would probably want to figure out what this emperor was doing. Does that make sense? Like,
but would that be? Could I drag the squad along to that?
Well, you could if you were to say something. If you were to be like, but I just left and we were going to hand it to this guy over in this kingdom. If you say something to that effect, that's up to the guys to determine. Either way, we'll get you where you need to go. It's just whether we need to do it quick or roundabout.
Well, is it how important is it that we like is that really the mission here, that we're just gotta like get the Tui Stone, or it's more than that, right?
Well, everybody's got a different purpose for it, so to speak. But ultimately, you guys have to locate it first. So it's a little bit of like find the MacGuffin. And the evidence that you have currently is that you know that you're supposed to hand it off to Emperor Quencho. And here at the school, they're saying, we don't have any real intel where it is, but we suspect because the battle took place here that it's somewhere underneath the rubble. Because they don't have your intel, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so without that intel, my character would say, well, I'd suggest once we finish this training, we head on out to the desert and see if we can find this here stuff.
God, I hate deserts.
I must say it is puzzling. This is not where my clan had. This wasn't even one of the options for where my clan may have left the stone at my time of passing. There must have been some great change in plan between the time I left. We were looking at hiding the stone in the eastern kingdoms of my tribe.
Yeah.
And in fact, with the intention of keeping it away from the central part of the continent.
Well, Sundu, my knowledge comes from about 12,000 years beyond this point, so if you have some more recent knowledge than what I have, then maybe we should follow the route that you set for us.
We could investigate, but I'm not sure in this time period what I would find in the eastern lands.
Well, let's look at the possibilities here. Once you guys would have buried it, what could have happened that would have brought it all the way over to the desert?
I mean, conflict, I think, would be the easiest answer there. Someone throwing it.
It was a
What are the
dragon.
possibilities of people knowing of it?
It was a mithril dragon that brought the stone to our tribe. Perhaps it was the same dragon that reclaimed it.
That brought it to the desert.
Or perhaps another dragon. I don't know. From what I've been told, it sounds like there would be a great battle between dragons and giants in that desert. But at the time, it was not a desert.
What was it at the time?
What was it at the time, Xavier?
Yeah, so it actually was a desert, but it was also a gate to a very hellacious place. All of these gates ended up after the battle, after the moon was destroyed and the dragons and the giants pretty much obliterated everything. This huge desert crater was created, and all of the gates went on haywire. So much electricity was coming through the planet and through the space that the planet was flying through that all the gates opened up to different planes. And that was actually a plane that was very much like, one of the lower planes, let's say.
Palladium, what intelligence do we have that's in the desert?
Simply the records of our time. This is all that we have. We know that the giant dragon war took place there, and that was the last place that the Tui Stone was seen. But if Sundu is saying that the mithril dragon Freya survived and brought that stone to his people, then that's the latest intel that we have. And I would begin by finding out, what the descendants of the original Kensho tribe that showed up there and who were given the stone, if that's where Sundu says that they were going to place it, see what their descendants have done with it. If it's gone from there, you will find out. But if it's not, then at least that's a beginning spot.
So it is settled. We will leave for whatever.
Kensho, yeah.
Kensho.
Yeah.
We'll leave for Kensho. How soon?
Well, after you fight this beholder. No. No, he says, as soon as you guys are ready. So what we'll do now is go through some combat. First, you guys will learn how to fight fight with one another, and then fight. If you guys are open to it and want to, you guys can fight each other, like a kind of battle royale thing.
always down for a little bit of sparring.
All right, cool. I'm glad. Yeah, yeah. All right. So then the next day it's like, okay, it's time to actually train together and fight, and we shall begin with